I am back with Isabel, and we are going to talk about coming to America. She got married in 1953. Yes?
Yes, June
June
6th.
June 6th, 1953. And then one of her conditions for getting married was that she come to America. So Angus
He,
kept true to his word and brought his new bride to America in 19.
54.
Okay, you're on.
And Jim Jack met us at the airport in New York, and he took us to, let me see, Rye, New York. And we lived with him for a couple of months. I got an apartment, moved into the apartment. A year later, we had our son, Derek Jeffrey, and he was named for my best friend's husband, who was English, and his name was Derek Jeffrey, so we named Derek Jeffrey Macleod. And he has two boys now. One is Michael Derek, and the other one is
Stephen.
Stephen Jeffrey.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that kept the name.
That's right.
We both liked it. Michael lives in Colorado. Stephen lives in the same town as Derek.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, Austin, Texas, and that's where Derek lives. So we lived in New York for 4 years, and I told Angus I was not going to live in New York another winter because their sidewalks were piled up like a wall, and you had to look for a space to walk across the street. And I froze, the tears would run out of my eye and freeze in my cheek. And I said, this is worse than Scotland, I'm not going to live here, Angus. He said, well, we'll go wherever you want to live. I said, Florida? And he said, Florida is. And about 3 months later, they told him they had been training him and a few others to open a new plant in Florida. And so he came home and he said, where would you like to live? Where did you say? And I looked at the map. He had this map. And I pointed to Miami. And watch me. He said, would you settle for Pensacola here? I said, it's in Florida? He said, yeah. And they're building the new plant there. I said, you mean they're going to transfer us? He said, right. I said, that had to be the Lord. He arranged it. And he did. I could see it all the way. And here we are in Pensacola. Never been happier in my life. I love it in Pensacola, and it's so nice and all around. It's nice even for retiring.
Yeah.
But Angus didn't get much retirement.
No.
He contracted cancer of the colon, and the doctor gave him 2 weeks to live. And I said, do you feel like you're going to live in 2 weeks, honey? And he said, no, they only guess. He said, it's up to the Lord. And so he said, we'll just take every day as it comes and enjoy it. So Derek had Michael, well, his wife had Michael. And we went down south. He was living way down south. We went down to see Michael. So Angus was able to hold his first grandchild, Michael. Loved it. And he lived 3 years just enjoying every single day. And we went here and there and everywhere and just laughed and had a good time at home.
It's great.
Went shopping and, and he would sit in the mall and talk to people while I was shopping in the mall. He loved it. And we'd go visit people, and have a good time. And then he died when he was 63.
Right.
And I feel like it was too young.
It was. Yeah.
And your dad told me that he felt like it was the way he was treated during the war, because he had been starved, hit in the face with the butt of a rifle, knocked in his teeth and broke his nose, starvation. He was 90 pounds when they liberated him, And
where was he in camp?
he was, first of all, in one of the Stalags. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was 23 or 32 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved them to Poznan, Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first place, they were building railroad lines. And the second one, they were working the salt mine.
Right.
And they heard these planes come over, and they said they sounded like British planes. So they ran out and up a hill, and the pilots didn't know it was them, so they started shooting at them. So they ran back and down to the mines, and he spent a long time in those mines. And then the Allies, I think they had moved them back to Germany,
Mm.
and the Allies were taking over,
Mm-hmm.
and the Americans were going to liberate them. And Angus and two of his friends went into this. They had stopped at a farmhouse, and
This was after they were liberated? The camp was liberated?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and well, they were liberating them at time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was MacArthur was
Mhm.
taking over,
Mm-hmm.
and they were pushing them further away, trying to get away from the Allies.
Oh, right, right.
And they stopped at this farmhouse, and Angus and the other two went into the farmhouse so they could get something to eat because they were starving. And one of the ladies said, mentioned to him to come on under her skirt. She was wearing a big skirt and a hat,
Right.
and she said, like hide. And he didn't know why, but he got under there, and she told another one to go in a closet and this one to go in there. And then somebody said that she knew they were coming in to take them out and shoot them because they were told to bring them all together and shoot them down. And he was saved. And
But a lot of the others were killed at that point?
all that were outside of that place
Uh,
were killed.
and how did he get, were they marching
They
them?
were marching.
And how did he get out of line, manage to get into the farmhouse?
Well, they were told to go get something to eat.
Oh, I see.
See, but the Allies were too close and they didn't know it. And then when
Oh.
they found out, they got them all together and they said, just shoot them all. So
Oh,
they shot them all,
oh,
and the three of them were saved.
wow.
So Angus was saved for a reason,
Yeah, yeah.
And when he come home, these ladies were all lined up with coffee and tea and things to eat. And he said, I just stood there and watched them. He says, I'd have loved some of it. But he says, I was so afraid that I'd swear if I went out, because that's all I heard for 5 years. All the guys were swearing at the guards,
Oh,
and they didn't understand. He said, I remember this swearing. He said, that's all I heard from everybody, And even the Germans were mad. They just hit them with, the guns and everything. They were terrible too. They were bad people. Even the young ones.
yeah.
They turned the young ones against everybody and everyone. They were all bad. But anyway, Angus was saved. They took them to England and they kept them.
Tell
for
us
about
the
a year.
story before they got to England when they were in France, about the story in the station with why Michelle's named Michelle.
Yes. Angus was sitting in, I guess, wherever. Was it the airport or something?
I don't know, yeah.
Waiting to go home. And this girl came and sat with him and asked him how he was. And, she was French. And she told him her name was Michelle. And the name stuck because she was so kind. And she got him something to eat,
Mm.
And he was so, cowed at that time because of how they treated him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sat and talked with her. And that girl just remained in his memory because of how kind she was and things that she said to him, And so when our first child was born, our second child, our first was a boy and then Michelle. And I wanted to name him like name her a Scottish name, you know. And I liked Fiona because of Fiona Macleod that I used to dance with. And he liked Michelle. And I said, I don't want to name her Michelle. I want to name her a Scottish name. He said, please name her Michelle. And he told me the story about this girl. And I said, okay, it's Michelle. And our pastor at the time, he came to see us, and he had his daughter with him. Her name was Diane. So I said, oh, I've got another name for her, Michelle Diane. And that sounds nice. He said, yeah, it does. So I said, Michelle, we're going to name the baby and put her second, you know. And she was pleased.
I'm going to pause it again because I've hit the 10-minute mark.